What every millionaire knows and doesn't say. I've studied millionaires for a while. There's plenty of opportunity too in this day and age. You see them all over the place. A lot pretending, but many that have a layer of authenticity. And one thing that I realized is there's one fact that they ignore, or it's more of a gem that they refuse to give out. Money is a reaction. Simple. Money is a reaction. When they're giving advice, they talk a lot about discipline and your core ethics and what you have to do, the hard work aspect, the gaining information. But they don't really talk about the money itself. Imagine right now that you're born into the situation where you're gifted a bunch of money. As much money as you think you need to never need money again. Automatically, the way my brain starts to process this is, where did this money come from? Why is this money here? You begin to ask the 5 W's. You begin to speculate. And why is that? Because your attachment to money is something that cannot just arrive spontaneously. It's something that has to have a preface, has to have a story, a narrative. If that's the truth, then that means that money is only the reaction of a story being told. See, to get certain things in life, it's given naturally, the same way that you would take a breath. But to receive certain things in life, you have to tell a story. You have to create a story. And this adds up very well when I always asked why the Buddhists, or why I'll see many people that are like gurus or in that spiritual being, why they won't consider wealth as a topic to talk about, why they almost demonize wealth, while also not stressing about money. The conclusion that I've come to on that sense is that they have figured out what money represents to them. Money is a reaction of them taking certain actions and figuring out the rotation and the system. They no longer need to rely on the system to make the money. They create a system using their own entity and their own being. And they create their own means of living. Certain levels of understanding that they are okay with to tolerate. Not everybody is fully able to do this. And when I say fully able, I mean that self-control that it takes to know that my care for money is obsolete. That is a different reference. That's a complete different topic. It's a complete different topic. For them to understand something like money and not have a care about it, it represents to me that once you understand the reaction of what is happening in the system, you could strategically implement ways of achieving this goal without doing work. And I say work with quotation marks because work is what you perceive work to be. See, one thing that this channel is always going to reflect on is the awareness level of the concepts that we talk about. The concept of money is, of course, very interesting, very historical. A lot of tales to be told on how money moves, but the way that I see money, I've heard from a different podcast that money is meant to emulate water. And definitely true. I did see the visual, I did reflect on it, and I did resonate with it. But now I'm also starting to see how money is more like a consensus, like a test of what's happening in our economy. You see, like, back in the day, there was a king, and this king, he had so much land that he didn't know what he had and what he didn't have. So he had, let's say he had like 50 people or 100, or we have to talk about more. We have to talk endless land. So let's think of a crowd of 10,000 people, and they're all on horseback, and he sends them out, and he says, I want you guys to go with a pen and paper, ink and a fucking feather, and you guys are gonna take a consensus of every single thing that I have. If you see a goat, you write, I have a goat. And if you see 2 goats, you add 2 goats, right? And you guys are gonna do this to the whole land that is claimed as mine. Once this king did that, he had a statistical accurate list of everything that belonged to him. How many fucking goats he had, how many cows, how many chickens, how many butterflies, bullshit, but how many people that he had under his reign. The king then told whoever it was that was making a fucking newspaper back then to print this on as much pieces of paper as possible. I want to send this out. I want to send this to my dogs, overseas, all over. I need to tell them this. What was this king doing? He was creating economical value. How? So, I'm another king. I receive a newsletter from my neighboring country that says this motherfucker has 15,000 cows. I don't know if that's a lot or not. Let's say this nigga has 150,000 cows. And nigga, I don't know how much cows I got. I don't know. So now I'm gonna go send my people out. I'm gonna be like, yo, check how much cows I got. I need to know. And I find out that I only have 40,000 cows, and he has 150,000. Nah, I can't. But I check how much chickens I got, and he says he has 60,000 chickens, but I have 500,000 chickens. So what am I gonna do? We need some cows. I'm gonna trade him some chickens. This is how I think the policy of money, or the understanding of money, really started to click in. Because when you're trading on such a grand scale, such mass things, pound for pound, you're gonna weigh it. You're going to need a type of reference in the middle that needs to be changed, right? And once these currencies are even if you're calculating how much gold you have and how much silver and how much resources, there's still no middle ground. There's still nothing that encapsulates how much of everything you have as one monetary value. So you create a title for everything that you have. This is my accumulation of blank: wealth, money, power, success. Throw in any adjective that makes you feel as empowered as possible. and know that it divides down to the minuscule, down to the feathers on my chicken's back. Why did I say all that? This brings me to a little conversation I was having with my team. When you see the God in people, conversations become prayers. When you see the consensus of people in their actions, it represents you. Maybe not to the masses, maybe not to most people, but to the accountable and to the people who really want to make a difference, yes, it represents you. This is very similar to a conversation I had with my friend, and he was like, yo, you should vote, you should vote, you should vote. And in my thinking and in my lack of thinking, it was something I didn't care to do, something I wasn't really, focused on. As a young guy, like, you've kind of fit a certain profile of the people that won't do certain things. But on the individual level, if you don't take the time to try to make a difference, will there be a difference? If you live such a busy life that you forget to clip your toenails, them shits will be long. So every once in a while, you have to take the time to do it. You have to add certain things to your routine. And this is where money becomes the reaction. Once you add these little key components to your life that matter, that need to be there, money won't just come from nowhere right away. Like, oh, you started going to school and you started a new job and you started this and you started that. And you started saving money and you started a business and you started. Great. The money is the reaction. Understand now that everything that you've done is leading up to something. Every action that you're doing and constantly repeat will have a reaction. And that reaction, if you put in the right effort and the right inputs into it, can be money, is what I'm trying to say. So, your trading journey starts with this one shift. Implementing the right steps and the right mindset into making that shift.